Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, you guys. I am super stoked, as we say in California, for a couple of good reasons, and I'll tell you about them as the show progresses. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to open the chat so I can see what you're saying there. There we go. Now I can see who's there. Jared, hey, always good to have you guys with us. You got out on a photo walk. Well, that's pretty cool. Hey, Majik, and who else do we got here? Spaz, okay. Hello, good to see you. Hey, Avet in England, and excuse me, I don't know who that is, but I'll excuse you for telling us who you are. And anyway, what's going on here? Are you guys seeing this? Right? Jared, can you see everything?
So.
Okay, because when I'm looking at the live here, it's showing a odd thing. Hang on, you guys. I think there's some.
It's good.
Okay, I don't know why my YouTube live is showing a tiny portion of the screen, not the whole thing. I'm just going to refresh it. Maybe that'll. I just always like to make sure you guys are seeing what I
would hate to talk for a while, and then it's like, oh, I'm not live.
Yeah. Okay, but Jared, you're seeing me in full frame, right? Like
you in full frame.
Okay, good.
Now I'm not. I think something happened that you did. I mean, it's a 30-second delay, but
okay,
but you're in full frame.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that's all I want to know. I want to make sure you guys see what I'm talking about so you can see the images. Everything okay out there and at your end? Hey, Chris. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get this party started. I'm Marc Silber. I'm an author and educator here in Carmel, California. And our good friends at Bay Photo Lab are kind enough to sponsor this show. And here's some specials they've got. The exposures are really cool. That's what you see behind me. This is an exposer right here. This is very cool. It's printed on a kind of a vinyl, and you can hang it. It floats. I like floating prints. Those are 30% off. You could get one of those. What else have they got? Acrylic prints for 20% off. Those are cool also. Very shiny. See that shiny sheen on there, which is a cool look. You can also get 25% off on your first order. Do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Help me help you with your, getting your prints out, which is what I want you to do. Okay, so that's that. Let's talk about. Looks good on our end. That's good. Let's talk about this photograph.
Oh, and before we continue.
Yeah. Thank you. Make sure you guys subscribe and enable the bell if you haven't already done so, because you don't want to miss any of our new shows. And we're going to have some really cool shows coming up. So do that right now. All right. So Jared's got this photograph up. He picked it for an appropriate reason. This is my grandson, Quinn. Some years ago. He's now going to be 11 years old. And today there's a new member of the Silber family joining us, Henry Silber. We will be seeing him a little later. It's a little different in the COVID era when you have, in the old days we'd be right outside and inside the actually delivery room, and, not going to happen this time. So we will meet him soon, but not today. Henry is Quinn's very young cousin. He's just going to be born today, February 4th. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about is photographing your children and grandchildren, how great it is to have them as your models. Quinn, actually, the interesting thing about this photograph, he doesn't really like, at least at this time, he didn't like to have his photograph taken. He was kind of shy. And I don't know exactly how I put him at ease, It was just one of those things. He's eating a strawberry, as you can see in his hand there. He's eating a strawberry. And somehow this is him looking through a window. So he's framed in a window, and there's a curtain on the side of it. And he's looking straight at me. And I use this in my two of my books. I use this as an example of getting the eye in the center of the frame. Actually, the other eye, I cropped it a little differently to emphasize it. You can see the dominant eye is the one that he's looking through. That's his dominant eye. Everybody has a dominant eye. You know, if you hand them a card with a hole in it and say, hold this up to your eye, they will hold it up to their dominant eye, right? Like my left eye is my dominant eye. And that's the one that usually when a person looks at you, you'll notice that one sort of pierces through. The other one is also looking, but in this case, you can really clearly see it. So I use that as an example of using, trying to get your dominant eye sort of centered. Again, I had to crop it a little bit to make that work. But I'm really happy with this photograph. I mean, look at those blue eyes and look at how deeply he's looking at me and capturing that expression. That was really cool. Don't forget to photograph the people around you. You know, this can be one of the best ways to round out your library is just photograph the people, the animals that are right there with you. If you've seen my Instagram, you'll have seen lots of photographs of the famous dog Shyla throughout her years, you know, as a puppy and then in her old age. And I did a video of her because we had to say goodbye to her last month, and in December. And you want to have those recordings around. You want to be able to use them for a variety of things, you know, not just, you know, in a book or prints or whatever, but what we do, one of the things we do is Jan makes photo books for our kids and our grandchildren and gives them to them like kind of a track of their memory. And it's really cool. We love it and they love it. We keep one for ourselves and we give them one. So it's a book of two. And it's a wonderful way to get your work into print with an audience that's really going to love it. Okay, so that's that. Let's start looking at... Oh, this is another...
Did you want to talk about this one quick, too?
Yeah, this is another one I used as an illustration in a composition. He's got some fake tattoos on his hand or his arm. Yeah, it's kind of cute. And he's, you know, that moment where he was just trying to learn how to play that guitar, you know, it was kind of a fun moment. So again, it's just finding their expressions and trying to tap into it, put them at ease. And if you photograph a lot around them, they'll sort of forget that you have a camera. All right, so Jared, let's start looking at our folks' work and talk about it.
Before we start, I'll just remind for anybody that maybe doesn't remember or are new here, or welcome, you can submit your photos by going to the AYP Club on Facebook and joining. I will be watching throughout the stream, so it is not too late to submit your photos. So join the AYP Club at the link that I've just put in. Go ahead.
Jared, I was going to answer your question. Yes, that's ambient light. Definitely no flash.
Yes, for
that previous
for
one.
that photo.
That was light coming, you know, right behind me and hitting his face. And the room is, as you can see, it made the room very dark.
All right, so let's take a look. Our first one we're going to do from Spaz. And so the caption with this one was that he really wanted to show, so let me bring it up here. So this is a frame that he shot a month or so ago near his hometown. He'd seen it several times before, but he wanted to try to make something with this pile of rubble. He was going to the mountain to shoot because the light was amazing that day. Yeah. And what really helped was the shadow on the clouds thrown over the mountain in the background that provided more pronounced separation between the two. My whole idea was the juxtaposition of the two mountains and draw attention to what we're doing to the planet. Not a spectacular frame, but it was important for me.
Yeah, I see that, and it really does show that. You processed it really well. I love the deep blue that you've got. I'm kind of guessing you might have used a gradient filter for that. There's a couple of different ways you would have achieved that result. I'm guessing the gradient filter because that's what it looks like to me. And I like the juxtaposition. That's a powerful composition tool, is contrast. Juxtaposition means one thing next to another, and often they are opposites. In this case, that's what you've got. You've got a man-made human rubble versus the, nature's mountain range behind. And you've done a really good job of that. And it's a powerful image, and it could, that could stand as a part of a story, perhaps, of your village or your area. And you're right, it has that message of let's not mess up our planet. So good job. Great light. Yeah, those wonderful clouds and the blue sky. And again, that's a huge contrast to this man-made rubble. And, that's a great message there. Getting a message in a photograph.
They put in the comment about what they used.
Oh, yeah, gradient filter. Yeah, that's what I thought. Let's just put that on there. Okay. And with the luminance range. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that certainly worked. The gradient filter pulled this down, and that worked very well. Good one, Spaz. Okay. Who's next?
All right. Our next one is from... This is Jeremy. Jeremy Linfield. Photos from the sunrise at Santa Monica 2 months ago.
Oh, wow. Yep, I know that pier. That's a great image. You've got it all working for you. Look at that. You've got leading lines. You've got shadows. You've got the sun there behind you. You got the punctuation point of the people in the red. Yep. All those things work together, and you got frames within frames, because this makes a frame. It makes a series of frames. There's a frame all the way over to the far left, even. I like that. You've got geometry, shadows. Good one. Santa Monica Pier. That's a classic spot, and you had to get up early to get that. So extra points. Extra photographer points for getting up for the golden hours. Getting up for the golden hours for me. Actually, I don't have any trouble getting up at all. It's getting out. I just have a morning ritual where I study, and I don't like to skip that. But you did, and that's bravo to you. Well done. This is a great image. Good job.
All right. Our next...
I'm going to share an epiphany with you guys in a minute,
sure.
And the power of journaling. But let's go ahead. I'll leave you.
Okay.
I'll leave you for a minute. We'll get to that. Wow.
All right. This one is from Partha, and it was titled "Life in Case."
In case. How interesting.
So I think maybe this is kind of like a case scene of some kind.
What
I'd guess.
is this? I mean, I love this image. This is incredible. I just don't know what it is. I mean, it looks like a rope thing that you crawl through. Oh, I see. I don't know if it's vertical or horizontal. That's the thing. It could be a horizontal shot. It doesn't really matter. Oh, it must be, because there's poles going up. The way it's photographed, it looks like we're looking down, and this little boy is crawling up this thing. But I don't think that's actually, I think he's crawling horizontally. It's cool. It's a cool shot. Leading lines right to your subject. Wow, look at that. Just so many leading lines. And it's perfect. And there he is with his orange shirt crawling on this thing. This is a great image. Wonderful. It's got a lot of vitality to it, because they're not just leading lines, but they're kind of like wavy lines. That adds a little feeling of motion. Also, the circular nature of this thing, that gives it another feeling of motion. And then we even look through it to see more stuff in the background. That's another layer there. Boom. You guys are doing so well. That's a home run. We call that. I mean, they all have been so far. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I tell you my epiphany? Okay. Sometimes the power, this is the power of journaling, why it's so important, because sometimes you just clarify something. You kind of have it, And why it's good to write it down sometimes is you can refine your own message or what your thoughts are. It's up here and it's like, woohoo, and you have to put it on paper. And for me, it causes me to clarify and get things distilled. Here's something I want to share with you. So we're in the middle of, actually towards the end of shooting a new AYP course, brand new, 2021 version for this book. Okay, Jared's editing it. We're shooting it here in California. We put it in the Dropbox overnight, and it magically appears where he is. Anyway, sometimes not so magically, and we have to do things like today. We're fiddling around, but anyway, compared to 10 years ago, where that technology didn't exist, this is pretty magical. So anyway, I have been looking at my own, what my goals are in teaching you guys, and what am I doing that's different than other people. And it really boils down to one thing. There's many channels out there that teach you software, camera lenses, even composition and whatnot. What I'm trying to teach actually fundamentally is how to be more creative. How can you be more creative? You're using a camera, whether you're using software to be more creative, or you're using what lens you're using, or what composition tool, it really boils down to visualization. How can you visualize what it is you want and turn it into the image that you want? And that's, I believe, really different. I don't hear that being talked about too much. And you guys know there's a difference here. So that's really where we're going here with advancing your photography. It's all about getting your creativity, your inspiration, and your vision expanded. Again, whether it's a camera, fine, that's great. Yes, knowing your equipment is really important to getting your vision out. Knowing how to process something is important. Knowing how to compose it. Those are tools that you use to get your creative spark or vision out there. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. All right, so what are we looking at here? Tell us about this image.
All right, and just to the question that I just saw, how do you join? Further up in the chat, there's a link to the AYP Club, and you can join that. I am watching it, and in fact, this photo was just submitted by somebody who just joined.
Wow.
So just to prove that I am watching, and it is not too late to join. So this is from Poll, and this photo is about the idea of the scary world which keeps its hand over us.
Interesting. All right, so listen, Paul, thanks for joining us. You will have not heard this before. I'm going to, because you haven't been here, I guess. I don't know, maybe you have. But anyway, listen, you've got a great set. You've set the scene. You've got light coming through the window. You've got the tones, the shadows. Everything is there. We just need a point of interest. And that could be person opening the door. It could be a cat walking into the frame. It could be there's something. Listen, these are my opinions. You can take them or leave them, because this is a well set up photograph. But sometimes that's not enough. We need not only a well set photograph, but we want to see something going on. I would love to see that door open and somebody peeking their head out. Now, are you going to make that happen? You could. You're trying to say this is a scary world. Look, if it's not photojournalism, you can certainly direct it any way you want. That could be done. You could have asked somebody, please open the door and kind of peer out like it's a scary world. That's an idea. Listen, lots of photographers have done that. When you look at Annie Leibovitz, when you look at Irving Penn, Arnold Newman, numerous great photographers have instructed their subjects exactly what they want them to do. Photojournalism, never do that, right? Every other kind of photography, street photography, you don't direct people either. But this is neither. It could be a street photograph, I suppose. anyway, I would just like to see, you've got this scene. Maybe you could go back and wait till somebody walks into the frame. If you don't want to direct them, just be patient and wait for them. So that's my first, point that I see that I would like to see you add to that image. I hope that makes sense. All right. Who's next?
Right. Let's do this one from Polio. Yep, Polio.
Perfect example, what I was just talking about.
Yep, a trip to the gallery in Brussels.
Oh, I was almost going to say Milan. Milano has a gallery very similar to this. Yeah, okay, good. I haven't been in the one in Brussels, but it's different, though. You can see the difference. Anyway, this is an example of what I was just talking about. Let's take that woman out of the frame, and what do we have? We have leading lines. We have interesting geometry, interesting light, but we put the woman in walking with the heel raised, bonus points, the shadow, and you've got a well-rounded photograph. So bravo, you found the scene and you waited for your subject to walk into the frame where you wanted them. Good job. I don't know what you processed with. It's got a pretty good dynamic range, though. You've got, pure white up at the top, and you've got some blacks in there. Yeah. You already know, if you've been on this show, I'm a huge fan of Silver FX Pro. You can just get a really great dynamic range. You can match it to look like film, which I often do. Anyway, you've done a good job processing it. I see a good range there of blacks and whites. Okay, good one.
All right, here's a really good one. This one's by David, and he explained a little bit how he got this photo, because this was taken during the New York Easter Parade, which is more of a stroll than a parade, he says. And getting portraits is really hard because there's so many people, and everybody's walking and moving, and it's during harsh midday sunlight. And bonnets create shadows and extreme dynamic ranges, so you have to be fast. So in this case, he found this couple was in the sun and the building was in the shadow, so he knew he had a decent background. And then he isolated them from the crowd by crouching down so that he was
smart.
Not looking right there. So he crouched down on his knees, and then he used a fill flash to help diminish the shadows on the faces. And then darken some of the crowd that were also in the sun.
Well done. You checked all the boxes. You did a great job with this. And all those are very important tools. Pulling yourself down, yes, because if you'd stood at eye level, you would have had all those people behind. And this is the trick that we use in sports photography often, is to crouch down low, and it cleans the background up, which is exactly what you did here. Because if you, again, visualize this, shooting it at eye level, you've got all kinds of clutter going on back there, and it would not have worked as well. Plus, you have the woman's expression and the man's, but the woman's one that really draws me in. Because she's looking right at you. He's got, it's a great photograph. The fill flash, very smart. And using their hats as a shade device. Brilliant. Otherwise, yes, they would have been completely washed out and not flattering at all. So, bravo. Good job. And black and white gives it a timeless feel. Of course, the way they're dressed, obviously helps as well. But awesome. Good job.
All right. I picked this one because I saw Robin's in there, and it's one that will be familiar to you, Mark. Can you name this location?
Well, let's see. I mean, there's our surfer.
It's I'll tell you right now.
Santa Cruz.
It's Pleasure Point in Santa Cruz. Yep.
Yeah.
So Robin has taken a change from his usual mountain photos, and he said that he took this one a year ago when he was living in California. That it's at Pleasure Point in Santa Cruz, a popular surf spot.
I can't tell you how many hundreds, if not thousands of times I have surfed there, and this is my favorite time of day to surf as the sun is going down. It is just, I can't tell you guys how wonderful that feels. You're surfing into the setting sun. It's a just beautiful feeling, and you've done a great job of capturing that mood with the surfer, the sun going down, the shadow, the water. That's a good one, Robin. That's awesome. And it brings back all these memories for me. That's what you want in a photograph. You want an emotional impact. And even people who aren't surfers you get that feeling, right? You can't, I know how this surfer feels. You've come off, maybe you've been surfing for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. You're just totally tired out. You've taken your last wave in. The sun is going to go down, or it's gone down. It's going to get dark soon. It's going to get cold. You want to be out of the water, but you just feel so great. It's so fulfilling. Anyway, I'm giving you all sorts of extra bonus things, but this is a great image. Pleasure Point. Wow, it's a great spot. My boys and I have surfed there just innumerable times, and we made videos of us surfing. You can hunt around, and you'll see. We've made a couple of videos. There's one on the YouTube channel called Mounting a GoPro, and in that there's footage right at this spot. And I have a very good friend who has a house right there. And so we go to his house, park the car, walk a half a block to the beach, go surfing, come back, take an outdoor shower. It's very cool, very civilized. And then head home feeling wonderful. Okay, great one,
all right.
Robin.
Our next one, this is from Vanessa, and she is also a new member who has just joined us. And this is part of a series, posted several, I chose this one. I wanted to start a series regarding dance and nature.
You did it. You pressed the shutter at the right moment to have that dancer clear that bench and have the toe just barely touching the bench. And then you've got nature behind, so you've got dancing in nature. You've got an interesting framing because of the two benches. This is a nature preserve of some sort, because you can see behind the dancer there's one of those boards that explains what they're looking at. My only tiny little thing, I don't know, maybe obviously you felt I would probably level it. I mean, I get why you maybe didn't, to add a little of a dynamic range. I'm not dynamic. I'm sorry. A little bit of diagonal line phenomena. I don't know. I would just probably try that. I'd probably just level the horizon, not the horizon so much as the line where the fence is. Yeah, because we don't really have a horizon line. I don't know. Maybe it's not important. I would just try that and see. And I get it. I get why you didn't, so I can see it both ways. But anyway, that's great. It's a moment of action, that you press the shutter right at the right moment, the color versus the kind of the drab background. It's got all sorts of things going for it. So good job.
All right. Here is one from Saad. This
Saad.
one is titled Alone, taken in Mosul City, Iraq, with a Nikon D7100.
There you go. You've got the scene set. You got beautiful clouds. You've got leading lines. You got a cross composition, because the one road crosses another. That is a composition tool, by the way. Cross. Whenever you have this kind of thing, two lines crossing each other, that can be very interesting. You've got the little boy with his foot up, leaning forward, walking. That just helps feeling of motion rather than having people standing flat. So that's always a good moment to look at when you're pressing the shutter. Good job. That worked really well. And another example of having this scene set. Now take the boy out of that image. Not much interest, right? Nothing really going on there. So you either were walking, this might be a boy that you're walking with, and you were just behind. And, sometimes that's really tricky. Yesterday I was trying to photograph this surfer against the setting sun, and he was walking this way, and I had to walk really fast to try to keep up with him, and I missed the photograph. He was walking too fast for me, and he was literally walking out of my frame, and I was trying to walk into the frame. I didn't get it. It was one of those like visualizations that didn't happen. If you guys, for many of you who were on our AYP Plus class on Tuesday, I thought that was a really revealing class because one of the things we looked at was Ansel Adams talking about his visualization of one of his most famous photographs. And I showed the class something that nobody else ever gets to see, which is his contact sheets, his photographs that showed the series as he changed lenses and he finally got the image he wanted. And then he talked about in one of his books about sometimes it's a disappointment. You can't get to where you have visualized it. Very powerful. I mean, visualization is the key to photography, because if you don't visualize, you're just pressing shutters. That's a snapshot. So the better you are at visualizing, the better photographer you're going to be, and the better you're going to be in life, for that matter. So listen, you guys, get into AYP Plus. You're going to love it. We have a class every single week on a designated subject that has to do with the cycle of photography. Jared can add a link in there. We're going to give away a membership here in a minute, by the way.
Yep. At the end of the show, somebody whose photo has been reviewed today will get a free month membership. So definitely stick around for that. Find out if it's you.
Yeah.
I'm just putting
okay. All right. Who's next?
All right. Our next one, we've got our good friend John over in the UK.
There you
he's
go,
taking
John.
this one. Another photo. He loves to take photos around where he lives. And this is one that he took, I think, in shooting people around the city of Birmingham.
Brilliant, as you guys say, or Brill, it would be even better, right? For an American to say Brill, it sounds unusual. We don't use that, but I have so many British UK friends that sometimes I do. Anyway, that is a brilliant photograph. It's got frames within frames. It's got color. It's got lines. It's got motion, emotion, and I especially love the frame to the right. Yeah, your cursor there. This frame with the blurry people is very cool. If we crop that, just kind of imagine if we cropped it off and we just left the guy in there, wouldn't be much to this photograph. That adds a whole cool layer to this image. It's like you've captured this moment of, they're on a bus, right? Yes, it has to be a bus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a double-decker, right? The yellow. Anyway, you were outside, I believe, looking through the window, and you captured, I love, too, these two figures on the right, and we've got this sort of other ghosty image. Doton called those ghosts of the second woman there. She's being reflected or something in the handrail. That's kind of crazy, but it looks really cool. So good one, John. I'm a fan. I like what you're doing here.
Speaking of framing, that seems to be the theme for today. We have a photo from another new member, Salam. I think that's how you say your name.
Wow, look at that.
And they posted two different photos from galleries and museums there in the UAE. And this first one is from inside the Manarat, and I'm not very good at pronunciation, but it's at a hip hop gallery.
Oh, really?
In that
Hip hop
particular,
gallery. I don't even know what a
in
hip
that.
hop gallery is.
So I'm guessing. I
Anyway,
think that these are photos of different hip hop groups and stuff.
okay, got it. Got it. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. Talk about frames within frames within frames. It's brilliant. Another brilliant photograph because you've got two distinct frames, right and left. And a third little one on the very left. Yeah, there's another frame. And then all these frames that they're looking at, it's frame within frame within frames. It's great. Great composition, just because of that. And the black and white works really well because it's very abstract. It takes away. This is the thing that you can do with black and white that really works is, if you had a lot of color in there, your eye would then be drawn to those color photographs or paintings or whatever they are, which could be cool. But this way, we're just looking at the kind of the geometry of it, all these rectangles, and great, works really well. And you've got shadows in there. You've got sort of the one subject on the right looking very intently. The other one, he looks like he's peering around the corner, like he's not quite sure if he wants to go in there or not. So that's cool. You got two different emotions and motions. Emotion and motion are tied together, aren't they? Think about it. The woman on the right is standing still and she's looking very intently. The other guy, you feel the tentativeness. There's a hesitation there. And that's kind of his motion and emotion are interlinked. Very interesting. Keep that in mind when you're photographing people. You can't put a stamp on it that says, this is the emotion of this person. But you can capture them in emotion, right? Sometimes you don't need that motion. Like the photograph I showed you of my grandson, he wasn't moving. But you get the emotion from his expression. So there's different ways of conveying emotion, but one of them is through motion. That's why we love to see when somebody's walking, we love to see that foot raised or bent forward or something, because it exemplifies their motion. Okay, cool. Good one.
And I think just adding my own little note here, I think that it was good to make sure that you got a little bit of gap here because it could be easy enough if the person was like walking a particular way that you wouldn't get that. And then it wouldn't be nearly as interesting because it wouldn't nearly look as human. Bob Holmes talks about that it's really important to get that silhouette.
Good one. And Chris said this, strong negative space is what keeps my eye engaged. Well done. A lot of negative space, which is, the black area up there, that's all negative space. Even the whites, that's considered negative space because it just, it's just going off without anything in it. So yes, that draws you in. The black is the really dominant negative space, and it does draw our eye into this frame, into these frames, I should say. Good one.
And the difference between these two whites, too, and that black. Just very interesting. Well done.
Yeah, good one.
Our next one, this is from Eric, and he commented, let me see, I know he commented that this was his first attempt at trying to create something that was artistic. He hadn't done something that was artistic before.
Okay.
So at least with this particular with a camera. So yeah, he was saying that this was my first time trying to do anything artistic with a camera. I used a light box with a piece of black material covering all but the edge of the light box. All done in camera because they at the time that they did this, they didn't know how to do any post-processing at the time that they took this photo.
Well done. Okay. From an artistic standpoint, you've done it. You've got cool lines. The edge lighting is very interesting on the bottle. It just sort of almost looks like it's hand drawn, So it's a very hard, you've hit on, if this is your very first one, well done. And the red of the wine coming through, you could envision this as a black and white, but the red really helps. I mean, that makes it pop. So good job. You're on a roll there. If that's your first one, just keep going. Good job.
So it looks like that's excuse me. So
this
good,
is
good
you.
photo. Excuse me.
Hey, excuse me. All right. What are we excusing you for? Okay, there you go. All right.
All right.
Good one.
This one is from Pablo, and the caption that goes with this one: umbrage, uncertainty, and unhappiness. Took this shot a few years back on the streets of Manchester, UK. I do not think he liked the idea of getting photographed, as he had a very stern look.
Yeah, I agree.
He was a big fan of. He's a big fan of Kodachrome 400 Portafilm, so he was trying to give it that sort of a look.
Yeah. Well, you definitely got his emotion. It's don't come any closer, dude. That's what I see. But listen, I love that you're not afraid to get in there and photograph. In the book Create, I talk about Leonardo da Vinci said, and this is really good advice, go around with your sketch pad. In our case, camera's fine. He didn't have cameras back then. He might have visualized them. This guy could visualize everything from helicopters to, underwater swimming, underwater apparatus that you could. I mean, he just visualized everything that you can imagine. But he said, go around and just look at people's emotion and draw them. Don't be afraid of any. Don't back off from any emotion. So the fact that you got in this guy's space, maybe a little threatening, good job. Two things I would do, this is just me, that I think would help this image, is I think it's a little too warm. I don't know what the light really looked like, but his hands are pretty orange. I toned that down. Whoops.
That happened.
No.
1 second.
Anyway, that's just your white balance. I think you might want to, if this wasn't really, I get what you were trying to get Kodachrome, but I think that's pretty orangey. So I just pulled that down just to make it a little more natural. And his face is also pretty orange. The only other thing I do, and you can not take this advice or not, I'd probably try to blur that background out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I would say a shallower depth of field would have been, just let that just disappear and let's just see the guy fully. So just a shallower depth of field, 2.8 would have been cool, 3.5 even. And you could do some, you can work on that in post. If you put a mask on the background and blur it, you can do that to some degree in Lightroom. You can definitely do that in Photoshop. That's up to you. If you don't want to do that, fine. But I would I would think those two things would help the image. The easy fix is the color, the white balance. I would just, to me, it just would look more natural based on the lighting of that, where I kind of imagine it is. But anyway, compositional wise and getting in this guy's space, you did it, Annie Leibovitz said, she had a master class and she said, some photographers think it's their job to put the subject at ease. I don't believe that. Okay, sometimes you do. I think it's a tool that you use or not, like I didn't want my grandson to look ill at ease. I did some things to put him at ease, and sometimes I do that with people. What I don't want is a stiff look. This guy, you didn't put at ease, but he's giving you an expression. So that's kudos to you on that one. Well done. Okay.
Oh, Jared had a comment.
Yeah, he just said, same on the warm tones. I also see a tiny bit of halo effect around the legs. Yes, that's true. Yeah, so you could there's some tools that you can do to get rid of. He's right. There's a little haloing going on there, and that's going to be fixed in your. Again, in Lightroom you have your optics, and you would there's a checkbox there. You could get rid of that in a second for the most part. But those are really easy fixes in your post-production. But yes, get rid of the halo. That's good call on that, Jared. Okay. And it's also, you can see it elsewhere a little bit.
So this one is from Lucian. This is taken in Littlehampton, England.
Okay, clouds. Bam, I love those clouds. I'm a big fan of clouds because they add depth and dimension and mood, and especially you can see the darkness at the top of the frame there. And the colors and the geometry of the buildings there. The bird's kind of getting lost, though. I mean, it's a punctuation point, but it's pretty lost into the water. So I think a couple more frames, just you've set the stage beautifully. We just need that bird a little more prominent, because it's if I just look at it, I don't even know instantly that that's a bird. It just kind of almost looks like some sort of form in the water. But that just comes from being patient and taking enough images until the bird is where you want it. I think it would be better if it were higher in the sky against those white clouds. Might make it pop a little more because it's blending so much in with the water. So again, you found this beautiful, set. Think of it like that. You're a movie director. You can't direct the bird, but you can wait, until maybe another bird flies. I shoot birds all the time, and they don't always cooperate. Can't tell you how many photographs I've missed because I didn't get them at the right moment. But then I've got enough that did, and it worked. So it's just being patient and just continuing to press the shutter until your objects and your everything is lining up the way you want it, which is what Cartier-Bresson said. It's that moment. It's a decisive moment. You're trying to get everything lining up just at that right moment. And you just have to be prepared and just press the shutter until you see it. All right, let's take a few more.
This one's from Mach. I took this photo in the fall. It captured the gallery parking lot. My wife and I went shopping, but I had to take some pictures of the sunset. As you can see, there's heavy clouds, and only in the distance the sun breaks through. It was already quite dark. For some reason, the camera was set to JPEG, not RAW, on this one. So.
Okay. Yep, that happens. I shot a whole bunch of photographs once in JPEGs by mistake. Okay, look, it has a lot of color. It's vibrant, and it could serve as a linking image. We've talked about that, with Dan Milner. I don't see it as a standalone. I mean, it could be. Look, there's a lot of just visual interest in the colors and kind of a design. I could see that, actually. I've talked myself into it. Yes, I could see that standing by itself, but I could also see it as part of, you're photographing your town, let's say, and this is one mood of it. But anyway, it works either way, so good job.
All right. This one is from our friend Bert, who loves to do sports photography, hasn't been able to do as much for obvious reasons. Throwback to better days. Watched Navy beat afternoon this afternoon, or Navy beat Army this afternoon. Really wish I'd been able to shoot the game. Hope to be shooting at the Naval Academy in the spring.
Good one, Bert. Yeah, you've got this great image of all the team ready to start playing basketball here in the stands, the fans in the stands behind them. I'm just going to comment on the white balance on this one as well. I think it's a little too warm. Now, maybe that is the way the light was bouncing off the floor, and the floor is very yellow, orange. I'd probably just pull it down a little bit, Bert. Just to me, I don't know. I just make that tiny little thing. I don't know. Maybe that was correct for the way you shot it. I mean, the blues in the background look good. You could do a local adjustment on those guys. I don't know. I just feel like it would just help a little bit if they weren't quite so orange or yellow. That tiny little adjustment, you can fix that in a second. But it's a cool, insight into a view of a game that's about to happen here. Before, look at how white everything is, and they haven't messed up their uniforms or anything, and they're getting ready. I like this guy right in the front here, with his hand over his chest right there. Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, good job.
All right. Here's one from Bob, and he had a question about his, so I'm bringing up his photo. So he said, a number of people think that the equipment in the foreground of this photo distracts from the drama of the mountains and the clouds in the background, especially in the uncropped version. I think the cropped version seems to help move the focus onto the mountains rather than the equipment. And then one person said the round wheels conflict with the angular movements. So that's kind of what I think that's so this is the uncropped version, and he also was asking about which you preferred, black or white.
Wow. Where is this? Those are some...
That's a good question. Let me see in my notes.
But let me go back and... Yeah.
This is in Carson Valley, Nevada.
Oh, wow. Carson Valley, Nevada. Okay, we're looking up at the High Sierra. Okay.
So that's the black and white.
Black and white,
so as
for
far
sure.
As the framing, we can see, so this is the uncropped one.
Well, the black and white definitely pops more. I don't know. I go back to the other one. Let's go back to the other one here.
This one?
Is that the uncropped version?
This is the cropped version. This is uncropped.
Let me see them again. I don't know. Let's see. Go back to the crop one again. Well, I would crop it differently. I don't like this as much, but here's what I'd probably do. Go back to the other one, the uncropped. Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose between the two, I'd take this one. The mountains are the the hero of this shot. The equipment, it doesn't. To me, it's not that important. It's just a bunch of old stuff. I would probably just step out of the way and photograph the mountains, because I don't feel like the equipment is. I don't feel it helps that image. I would just move over to the left or right and get those incredible mountains with the line of the horizon there.
So I believe the question, I just saw that here. So the question, which I think I'm getting your answer from that, is, should I have gone to the fence line and just shot the empty field for the foreground? And
there you go.
Middle ground would be the distant line on the tree and homes with the mountains in the background, or does the image work for you with the equipment in the foreground?
Yeah, no, I don't think it really helps me with, I don't know, they don't seem to fit together, and it doesn't even create a juxtaposition. But yes, I think your other idea of just go to the fence line, let that be the photograph, I believe would be a very strong image, because you've got such amazing clouds. You'd have it coming out of the horizon, line, the fence line, boom. Yes, I think you already intuitively knew that, so I believe you're right on the money there. Just go with what you already saw. Yeah.
But as far as color, you said that you like the black and white.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, that helps the image a lot.
Yep. All right. What time is it? Okay. This one is from Dee Moss. And this is a portrait of Jim Reed at his rare book loft at Reed Books in Birmingham, Alabama.
Whoa, I love it. I love the expression. And my only little thing is I'd like to see the reversal of your focus. I'd rather see him in focus and the books not as sharp. I don't know if you did that on purpose and you're trying to make the emphasis on the books, and Jim not so much in focus. I just feel like, look, I like to see people in focus. That's all. Simple. He's not moving, so we're not trying to show motion here. That would be my only thing. The composition is really cool, against all those books. And he's got that interesting expression on his face. So that I feel like that would be strengthened by having him sharply in focus. You used a shallow depth of field because he's not standing more than, I'm guessing, 8 feet away from the books behind him, something like that. But I feel like that would really enhance that image. And our eye goes, boom, right to Jim. He's sharp. Books are blurring in the background. But compositionally, right on.
The one thing that sticks in my head is I just imagine if this was in color and like seeing all the different colors that these books would have. Mm-hmm. So like you can tell why he went black and white with it.
It would compete. Yeah, we'd have all this competition of the background that way. So that this keeps the background from competing with him. So yeah, and the black and white really works great.
Yep. This one is from Ellen. Outdoor dining, outdoor sleeping. This was taken on a street in San Francisco, open to outdoor dining, $20 lunches, and the increasing presence of homeless tents.
Oh, man.
You can see eating right over here.
Yeah, that's a bummer. San Francisco, I love the city. I've spent a lot of time there. I lived near it for a long time. I have kids there. Unfortunately, it has a big homeless problem. Yeah. Okay. So it's an interesting photograph that isn't quite popping because where is the center of interest? So the most centered thing that I get is the orange in the middle, but that doesn't, it's like, what's there? Nothing. So the people on the right could be, but my eye is just drawn right to the orange. So you're just a frame or two maybe away from having it all work. And was it getting closer up to the women on the right? Perhaps there's too many things going on. I don't know which one. We've got the tent, the orange, and the women. So which one is it you really want me to see? Okay, so this is important because centering it, getting a center of interest or splitting it is confusing. It's just like if I said to you, look over there, and I didn't point. Look at what, Mark? No, just look over there. What do you want me to look at? You see, there'd be a lot of back and forth. And if I said, look at the woman on the right, okay, so, you just have to think like that. How do we get, what's the story here? I get what you're talking about, the homeless tent versus the outdoor dining. I don't know that that's outdoor dining, though. I just see an orange thing. So anyway, you just want to keep working it. You're on the right track. I mean, you've got the idea of the story. Just keep working it. Keep going for it, and you'll get it. So, good on getting out and visualizing a story. Now just keep shooting it until you get it. Okay.
All right.
We'll take a few more, and then we're going to end off for today.
All right. This one is from Insky, one of our film photographers, as you can see from this. Uh-huh. And this one, a burned up olive trees, shot. Let's see. Decided to try an orange filter I had around to see if I liked it. I don't think they ended up using it, but I think they had that. Here, let me see. Decided on trying out an orange filter I had lying around and to see if I liked it in these situations, and then scanned it with their Canon 80D with a 12 shots stitching process. So that's how they got this negative, and then they scanned it and stitched it together to make sure it was like high resolution.
Okay, so it's more than one negative that was stitched together? That doesn't.
Or it's. I think they.
Like...
I'm not sure. You may want to. It'd be fun to have you explain a bit more on how you get
Yeah,
these,
I
because I
mean,
know that you've mentioned that on a couple of these. So
because I see your Ilford and I see, which I love, and I see the frames 14 and 13. Let us know. I don't believe those are stitched together, but could
I think it was the
maybe.
scan, because they said they scanned it
Yeah, you
and then
scanned it. I
12.
like the fact that you left the edge of. I like that. That's cool. You got the edge and the tiny, the numbers and the Ilford frame and all that. Yeah, so interesting. I don't have a center of interest though. I mean, the tree, kind of. It's just not strong enough. Edward Weston said composition is no more than finding the strongest way of seeing. That's a paraphrase. He didn't say it exactly like that. It's the strongest way of seeing, is what he said. Like, how do you make an image strong? Well, you have to emphasize something. There has to be some impact. So we've got to get some strength into this image, because it's almost. Now, how do we do that? I can't tell you exactly. I mean, I can give you some ideas here. If we're trying to emphasize this one tree in the center, don't cut off the top of it. Pull back. Maybe that's your shot. And use a shallow depth of field, for instance, that strengthens just that. We go, whoa, that's a cool tree. And the rest of it's, very blurry in the background. I'm spitballing. These are ideas. I don't know if that would even work. But do you see what I mean? Strongest way of seeing. Like, how do we make this really strong? What can we do? Black and white helps for sure. But we have to give it a center of interest. And that could be, again, the tree itself, or maybe, something coming onto the tree. But if we're just going to shoot just a landscape, move around a little bit more until you get that strongest way of seeing. That's something that Camille Seaman also mentioned. I'm thinking of all these because I've just recently reshot, the book, and I'm remembering a lot of these interviews. Camille Seaman talked about forms. It's arranging forms, with landscapes. And you just move around until the forms come together the way you want them. It's a game. It's like, those are forms. The tree is a form. So move around until that form does what you want, and then use your tools like depth of field to make it stronger, make it pop out. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the comments, bulb mode Bill, who I believe is Hinsky, said that it's a 6x9 negative medium format.
Oh, that is a big negative. Good job on that. I see it now. I see that's a big negative. Okay, cool.
All right. I think we got one more, and then we'll do our drawing.
Yeah.
All right. So this is from Zobayer. I believe that's how you say your name. And this was shot in Bangladesh. They said a child is carried to the roof of a train by his relatives. Journey by sitting on the roof of a train is usually dangerous, but a common tradition and scenario seen in Bangladesh.
Wow.
They said.
That's wild. That is a wild image. I love it. It's a great image, and it's got diagonal lines going through it. Yeah, beautiful lines. The people trailing off on the other car, and the center of interest is clear. Boom, little boy being lifted, but it's got different layers in it. That's the foreground, the middle ground. The guy standing up has a point of interest. Like, wow, he's got his own set of emotions. And no, it's a great photograph. That's got you're checking all the boxes there. What a story. Yow. That, for an American, that just like, listen, when I was a kid, riding the railroads was a big fantasy I had, because some of my heroes, like Woody Guthrie, the great songwriter who wrote "This Land Is Your Land." He's one of our great American songwriters, who also was the inspiration for Bob Dylan. But anyway, he wrote a book about riding railroads. By the time I grew up, that had been stamped out. You could not ride railroads. They're just gone. They stopped letting people get anywhere near this. And so, but for me, it was hitchhiking, and I hitchhiked all over the place. It was my mode of transportation, and it was essentially the same kind of thing. So this is a throwback to what might have happened in the 40s, maybe the 50s in our country. Not riding on the roof with a little kid, though. That never would have happened. But riding on roofs or in flat cars that are open, that sort of thing. So it's a real throwback kind of to our earlier days. But anyway, this is a really great image. Very strong. Strongest way of seeing. You composed it really well. We could do a whole show on just that one quote from Edward Weston. How do you make strong images? That's what it's all about, isn't it? Okay, good.
Yeah. You know
Very
what?
good.
You could do a show like that. Might even do one for AYP.
I know.
Which we're about to do a giveaway for. So
okay,
I have run the numbers, and I've assigned everybody a number that has submitted a photo, and the winner for this week for a month membership of AYP Plus is Saad. Here's the photo that they had.
Saad, I'm so glad you won that.
I'll be reaching out to you soon. Love your work. Been watching it for a while on the AYP Club, which everybody should be sure to join. And if you want to know more about AYP Plus, I put a link in the chat just now. So be sure to check that out. And we hope to see you soon in AYP Club at our next meeting.
Absolutely. On Tuesday, we're going to hear from a good friend of mine, David Breyer, who is a branding expert. You might think, what has that got to do with photography? You have a brand. Every one of you guys is developing, either have a brand or you're developing one. Like brand, Saeed, there's your brand. I can see your photograph. And a brand isn't just something you sell. It can be, like I gave the example of my mom had a brand of her cookies. My mom was named Bernice, and we actually nicknamed them Nice cookies, Nice potatoes, Nice. It was her brand of cooking. She didn't sell anything, but it was within the family. She had a distinct brand. And that's what we're trying to do as photographers. Is you want what branding is all about is differentiating yourself from everybody else. Right? Apple. What did they do? They differentiated themselves. They were different than IBM. They were different than a PC. They built their brand on that. Think different was the whole campaign they created. So you want to be different. You want to differentiate yourself. That's part of strong, how you make a strong image. Because if you look like everybody else's, so what? Anyway, we're going to be talking about that on Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to it because he's a really good teacher as well. All right. My brand, Marc Silber's brand, is about visualization and creativity. That everybody else is talking about equipment, getting the newest software, da-da-da. You can tell I like software and I like cameras. But, I'd rather talk to you about the real deal, which is adding creativity. Composition tools, visualization tools, those are things that aren't being talked about that much. We get Milner on here. He's, why do we have Dan on so much? And why do we have Bob Holmes? Because we resonate. We're kind of in the same school. All right, you guys, thank you. Awesome work. Love seeing your work. Love seeing you guys getting out there, capturing those photographs. So keep doing that, all right? And don't forget to, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss any of our new shows. We're going to have a whole bunch of new shows coming up in the springtime. As soon as I get through shooting these classes, we're going to get out and do a bunch of new AYP videos, not just lives, but out and about in the field. I'm looking forward to that. You guys will have fun. Jared, did we leave anything else out, or is that we kind of covered everything?
I think a lot of people should make sure they subscribe so that they can see those new videos.
Well, I already did that, but let's do it again.
Oh,
we'll just subscribe again. Tell somebody else to subscribe.
And ring that bell because YouTube is
Ring that
very
bell.
hungry lately about sending notifications out.
Yeah, like the video, leave your comments, and, don't forget, say it with me. Come on. What's the final thing I always say? Remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Stay well, stay strong. Love you guys, and we'll see you soon. Come to AYP Plus. I'd love to see you there. Take care.